Hello everyone, today we're going to learn how to make this lovely little lychee charm using the crochet method. As for this little lychee, we can hang it gently on a bag to use as a sweet, ornament or a charm. Or we can attach it to a keychain, which looks absolutely wonderful either way. So let us begin learning together right now. First, we will start with a magic ring. We will make 6 single crochets into the magic ring. Wrap the yarn around your finger first. Loop it once, and after 2 loops, we gently take it off. Take it off and insert the crochet hook into the loop. Wrap the yarn around your pinky finger and bring the yarn right up. Hold the yarn just like this. Perfect. Then we can begin our crocheting. First, bring the hook under and wrap the yarn. Pull it up and make a turning chain stitch here. Once the chain stitch is ready, we need to crochet 6 single crochets. 6 single crochets. Let's do the first one now. 1. Alright, once this single crochet is finished, we must place a stitch marker on it, so we won't accidentally make a mistake later. Great, now that the stitch marker is securely placed, let us move on to the second stitch. Continue working inside this big loop. Alright, second stitch done, now the third stitch. The fourth stitch. The fifth stitch. And the 6th stitch. Okay, now that the 6 stitches are done, we will take that loop and pull it a little bit bigger. Then let's count back carefully to see if our stitch count is correct, to see if there are 6 stitches. Let's look at the first stitch together. The first one is our initial chain stitch, which does not count as a stitch. We start counting from the stitch with the marker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, exactly 6 stitches. Alright, we counted them. Since the stitch count matches, we can close the ring now. Now, how do we pull the ring tight? First, let's gently pull this short yarn tail right here. Pull it slightly and watch to see which strand moves. Okay, now that we know which strand is moving, we will pull this strand tight first. Tighten this strand first. Make sure to pull it securely tight. This prevents leaving an unsightly hole right in the center. Once it is pulled tight, we will then take that short yarn tail and pull it tight as well. Alright, now that it is tightened nicely, we take our crochet hook and insert it back into this large active loop from earlier. Catch the yarn and bring it up. And now we need to connect it to our very first stitch. We will make a slip stitch to join them. How do we work this slip stitch? First, before we make the slip stitch, let's place a stitch marker on the last stitch. This prevents us from adding or missing a stitch later. Great, with the last stitch marked, we can now take that first stitch marker from earlier right off. Insert the crochet hook directly into this stitch where the marker just was. Alright, after inserting it, draw the yarn through from below. Once drawn through, pull it right through the loop. Now, watch closely as we pull it through this loop. We must pull this yarn tight. By pulling it nice and tight, we avoid accidentally mistaking it for a stitch later and getting things mixed up. Okay, after tightening it, we need to make a single chain stitch, and the first round is complete. Now, let's begin the second round. For the second round, we will do 6 increases. To do these 6 increases, we start by crocheting into the first stitch. Since our turning chain does not count as a stitch, we must work right into this same stitch where we made the slip stitch, to create a single crochet increase. As for this single crochet increase, which means we crocheted single crochets into the very same stitch. Now that the first stitch is done, let's work the second one. Alright, now that these two stitches are completed, let's go ahead and put our stitch marker back on. Take a close look. Here is our first stitch, and here is our second stitch. We will place it right on top of the first stitch. Make sure it is clipped securely. Once the first increase is done, we will now work on our second increase. For this second increase, go into the second stitch. Insert your hook right into the next stitch space. Then wrap the yarn and bring it through. And work the second stitch into that exact same space. Beautiful! With the second set of increases done, let's move on to the third set. The fourth set. And the fifth set. After finishing the fifth set of increases, there is only one last set left. When you reach this final set, we can gently take this stitch marker off. Alright, the sixth set of increases is completed. Now please watch carefully. After our 6 sets of crochet increases are finished, you don't need to work into this specific spot anymore, because this spot right here isn't a real stitch. We only need 6 sets of increases. Just count to make sure there are exactly 6 sets. Next, right at the position of this final increase, let's place another stitch marker there. Great, now we need to connect with the very first stitch by making a slip stitch. Let's take off that first stitch from when we began the second round. Once the marker is removed, insert your hook straight into the stitch where the marker just was. Then make a slip stitch to join them together. And pull this yarn nice and tight. Alright, once it's tightened up, we will continue by making a turning chain stitch. For our third round, the pattern will be 1 single crochet followed by 1 increase. So first, inside this very first stitch space, let's work a single crochet. Once this single crochet is finished, we will do an increase right into the next stitch. But before we crochet into this next stitch, let's place the stitch marker on first. We really must, especially for our beginners, get into the wonderful habit of using stitch markers. If you don't use a stitch marker, you won't even realize when you add or miss a stitch. By then, the finished piece will turn out warped and lose its shape. Alright, now that the marker is placed, let's start crocheting into the second stitch space. The second one is an increase. So we go right into the next stitch space and work a single crochet increase. Once the first stitch is done, continue by working the second stitch into this same space. Now our first set is completely finished. Next, let's work on the second set. Crochet 1 single crochet first. Then crochet 1 single crochet increase. Now for the third set. 1 single crochet, followed by 1 single crochet increase. The fourth set, 1 single crochet. Then a single crochet increase. Moving to the fifth set, 1 single crochet. then a single crochet increase. Now for the very last set. First, work 1 single crochet. And right here where the final stitch marker is, let's take the marker off and work 1 more increase. Wonderful! Our final stitch is now completed. Next, place the stitch marker right back on. The reason we use this stitch marker is simply to make sure we don't accidentally add extra stitches at the end, and to always know exactly where the final stitch belongs. Otherwise, some friends who don't use markers might see a seemingly wide gap after crocheting and keep on adding another stitch right there. But that isn't a real stitch space anymore, so it would be a mistake. Now, for our next round, let's remove this stitch marker first and make a slip stitch. Great! Once that's done, continue by making a turning chain. Next, we need to crochet the 4th round. For the 4th round, the pattern is to single crochets and 1 increase. Let's work a single crochet into the first stitch space and place the stitch marker carefully. Once the first single crochet is done, work the second single crochet right into the next stitch space, making a second single crochet. After finishing it, we need to work an increase. Crochet an increase into the next stitch space. 1, 2. Wonderful! Our increase is done. This is our first set. We need to crochet 6 sets in total. The pattern for this entire round is simply 2 single crochets and 1 increase, repeated for 6 sets. We have now completed our first set. Let me demonstrate the second set for you all. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, and 1 increase. Now for the third set. Single crochet, single crochet, and an increase. Next, please follow this pattern of 2 single crochets and 1 increase to crochet all the way to where the stitch marker is. Alright, when we reach the very last stitch, take this stitch marker off and work an increase. Great! Once that final increase is done, it's the same routine. Continue to place the stitch marker back on. Now, let's make a slip stitch to connect with the first stitch. Make a turning chain stitch just like before. Perfect, now let's work on the 5th round. For the upcoming 5th round, as well as the 6th, 7th, and 8th rounds, we will work 24 stitches across without any increases or decreases. Let me demonstrate this first round for you. First, work a single crochet into the stitch where we chained up, and mark it carefully with our stitch marker. Now let's crochet the second stitch. the third stitch, the fourth stitch, 5, minus 1, minus 1, minus 1, 9, 10, and just like that, without increasing or decreasing. Work one stitch into every single stitch space. Keep crocheting all the way until the end, right to where this stitch marker is placed. Beautiful! When you get to the last stitch, take the stitch marker off. Just like before, work a single crochet here. Put the stitch marker back on to mark it properly. And then make a slip stitch with the first stitch. Make a turning chain stitch. Alright, next up for everyone is the 6th round, the 7th round, and the 8th round. 3 rounds left. Continue without any increases or decreases, and go ahead to finish them on your own. Then we will move right along to the following steps. Now, while you are crocheting, please remember, at the beginning of every single round, for both the first stitch and the very last stitch, to always mark them properly. This way, it is much harder to mistake your stitch count. Now, we have been working without increases or decreases, and 5 rounds in total should be finished by now. Oh wait, no, it is 4 rounds. In total, it is 4 rounds that we have finished. And now let us count them together. If we are at the 9th round, the 8th round, then that is correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright, we are exactly at the 8th round. And next, we will work on the 9th round. When we are about to crochet the 9th round, we need to flip this entire piece over. Let's pull this active loop a little bit wider first. And then gently turn the piece inside out like this. After that, let us take this yarn tail and whip it in to hide it first. Bring out your tapestry needle. Find a good little spot and insert it through. Once it's in, we flip it over like this to wrap and secure the yarn tail. Weaving it in once is enough. It's just a bit tricky to handle. This needle is a little bit too thick. Then we can snip this yarn tail off. Well, not cutting it is fine too. We can just stuff it inside. Just tuck it right into the middle like this, because in a little while, we will also need to stuff it with fibre fill anyway. So leaving it directly inside works perfectly. Then let us take this main yarn loop right back up. Once it's securely back on your hook, we will need to proceed like this. On this piece, we need to crochet in the opposite direction now. Still working 24 single crochets without any increases or decreases. But this time, we need to pick up only the half loop of the stitch. What does working into the half loop mean? Let me bring it a little closer for you all to see. Every single stitch of ours is divided in two. A left side and a right side, looking just like a little V shape. This stitch looks exactly like a V shape, right? And now we need to pick up just this half loop on the inside. We leave the outer half loop untouched. Just picking up this inner half loop will do. Let's try this together. First, pick up the very first stitch. Normally, we would insert the hook like this, through both loops, right? But right now, we only need to pick up a half loop. Just like that. This half loop right closest to us. Just pick up this single half loop. Then wrap the yarn. And work our very first single crochet. Once this first stitch is finished, just like before, take our stitch marker and mark it carefully. After placing that first stitch marker, we continue to work into the following stitches. For every stitch, pick up only this half side, this half loop closest to us, and work a single crochet. Great, when you reach the last stitch, take the stitch marker off. Once the final stitch is completed, place another stitch marker right back on it. Then remove the very first marker at the beginning. When making our slip stitch, we need to go through both loops to join it. Then make the first turning chain. Wonderful! Now let's crochet the 10th round. For the 10th round, we need to make a decrease. How do we work this decrease? First, the pattern is for single crochets then a decrease. Let's see. Work the first single crochet. Also picking up just this half loop closest to us. And place the stitch marker properly. Now the second single crochet. The third single crochet. And the fourth single crochet. Right after this fourth single crochet is finished, we need to work a decrease. For this decrease, it's just the same routine. After drawing the yarn through, we don't wrap the yarn again. Wait, wrap it once, and then insert the hook into the next stitch space. And pull the yarn through. Now we have 3 loops on our crochet hook, and then pull through all of them at once. Pull through all the loops on the hook. This right here is a decrease. Next, let's work on another set together, following the pattern of 4 single crochets and 1 decrease. Alright, this is looking good. Next, let's continue with the decrease. After wrapping the yarn once, insert the hook into the next stitch space and wrap the yarn again. Pull through all 3 loops at once. Perfect, our second set of decreases is completed. Now let's move on to the third set of decreases. Just like before, pick up only the half loop. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, 3 single crochets. The single crochets, and then a decrease. Great, now let's crochet. Our very last set of decreases. First, it's still for single crochets. One, 2, 3, 4. Alright, now take the stitch marker off to work the final decrease. Insert your hook into the stitch loop and pull the yarn through. Insert it into the next loop again. Pull the yarn through, and then all at once. Pull through all the loops on your hook. Once this last set of decreases is done, it's the same routine. Place a stitch marker back on it. Take the very first stitch marker off and go through both loops to make a slip stitch. Work our first turning chain stitch. Wonderful! Next let's crochet the 11th round. For the 11th round, we have 20 inner half stitches without decreasing. Work a round of single crochets without any increases or decreases. Place 1 single crochet into every single stitch space. First, inside this very first stitch, we also need to pick up just the half loop. Once the first stitch is done, mark it carefully with the stitch marker. The second stitch, the third stitch, the fourth stitch, the fifth stitch, the sixth stitch, the seventh stitch, and the 8th stitch. 9, 10. Before we go on, everyone, please crochet this all the way to where the last stitch marker is. As this opening gets smaller and smaller, it will become a little bit more challenging for us to manage. But if you just stay a little patient, you will definitely be able to finish crocheting it. Alright, now that it is completed, do the exact same thing and place a stitch marker. Right at the position of the final stitch. Take this green stitch marker off. Insert your hook into the loop and make a slip stitch. Work a turning chain stitch. Next, for the 12th round, the pattern is 3 single crochets, followed by 1 decrease. Place the stitch marker securely on the first single crochet. The second single crochet. And the third one. Great! Once these three are ready, we will now make a decrease. The method is exactly the same as before. First, wrap the yarn once and draw it through. Then insert the hook into the next stitch space. And draw the yarn through once more. Pull through all 3 loops at the same time. Now our first decrease is completed, and then we work 3 single crochets again. 1, 2, 3, and then a decrease. One, 2, 3, and another decrease. Wonderful! Now for the very last set of decreases. Let's remove this red stitch marker. Alright, our final set of decreases is now completed. By now, the opening has become quite small. Well, since we have crocheted so many rounds already, you should be able to remember which one is the final stitch. So we won't be using a stitch marker this time, because the opening is too small right now, and putting a stitch marker on would actually get in the way of our movements. So let's take this one off first. And make a slip stitch. Now we need to crochet the 13th round, just in case anyone still can't remember. For the very first stitch and the final stitch of the round, you can certainly keep using your stitch markers. However, leaving them on means they might really get in the way of your hand movements. If you can keep track of them mentally, it's better not to use the markers. Now, for the 13th round, the pattern is 1 single crochet. Ah, wait, that's not quite right. It's 1 decrease, 1 single crochet, and 1 decrease. Let's see, let's work a decrease first. After this first decrease, we work 1 single crochet. Next, work another decrease. And then, work 1 more decrease. That's 2 decreases worked in a row. Then a single crochet. Now work 2 decreases in a row again. Then 1 single crochet. Followed by 2 more decreases in a row. And the very last decrease. Alright, let's not make the slip stitch just yet. Pull this active loop out a bit larger first. We need to add the fibre fill stuffing inside now. If we close up this opening completely, it will be very difficult to stuff the fibre fill in. Take the stuffing in small amounts, little by little, and gently push it inside. Once it is filled up nicely, we can finally close this opening. Find the very first stitch and make a slip stitch. It gets a bit tricky to crochet when we reach this back part. Once the slip stitch is done, work a turning chain. Next, for the 14th round, the pattern is 1 single crochet and 1 decrease. If the stitches are too hard to pick up here, you can go ahead and insert your hook through both loops normally. The yarn keeps splitting a bit. Work a single crochet and then a decrease. One single crochet and 1 decrease. Continue with 1 single crochet. Then a decrease. Finally, make a slip stitch with the first stitch. Wonderful! Now we can fasten off and cut the yarn. When cutting the yarn, leave a slightly longer tail for sewing. Pull it through to secure it. Alright, now you'll notice there is a tiny opening left here. We will weave our needle through it a few times. We'll use the needle to close this little opening up. Just weave through the outer. Front loops of the stitches. Go right through every single stitch space. And then pull it tightly secure. See, once it's pulled tight, that little hole completely disappears. Then pass the yarn tail back and forth a few more times. Once it's secure, we can snip the remaining yarn off. There's a tiny bit of yarn tail sticking out, right? Let's give it a gentle squeeze and shape it. And the yarn tail will tuck itself right inside.